It is time once again for Appraise This with Tim Luke and Greg Strom, the appraisal guys, the frick and frack of Nick and Knack, tqag.com on the web. And through the magic of Skype and radio, hopefully I will hear their dulcet tones. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
There we go. And Jill is, of course, with all her dogs and her setup in the morning, is running a bit late. So
in transit.
It's the trio. What should call it?
It's the guys.
The guys. Just the guys. It's the guys this morning. So what do you guys have on?
Tim is actually in the Delta Lounge in New Orleans. I'm here in Florida.
I'm in NOLA. I'm in NOLA. I actually, this was just a quick trip. I came in yesterday for the National Auctioneers Association, doing some training for their new leadership. So the new board members for the NAA, the National Auctioneers Association, but also the National Auctioneers Foundation, and also their Education Institute. So all the new board members and the International Auctioneer Champs, they were here. And I did a whole presentation on effective communications, because they're going to be in a whole new role and how to be effective when they're listening to the membership gripe about different things and how to respond effectively.
Well, I was going to ask you, would you ever want to be part of that board?
Maybe at some point, but right now it's just too.
I'm going to put my foot down and say no.
Yeah, at this point it might be a little too much, but I'm very fortunate that they tapped me to do this. This is my, I want to say, fourth or I think fifth year doing this, and it's in part because of the communications class that I've done, and then now Greg has helped with. And it's they see how it does make a difference, and it was really, really great, because I know a number of the people in the leadership, so I know them on a whole different level, and we can really in 2 hours just get a lot done. So it was really rewarding, and some of the concepts that I introduced were a little different that they might not have been exposed to in their everyday. And a number of them said, "Oh, this was very helpful, and I'm taking this back to my office, and I'm doing this." Yes, so yeah, it was good. It was really good.
Well, when this class, the first time this class got started, it was how many years now, Tim? Like 4 years?
About 4 or 5 years. It was like 5 years.
People thought, "What the heck is this? Interpersonal communication skills?"
Right.
And people were walking in with their heads cocked to the side, like, what is this about? Oh, not really. And it turns out that the very first year that the class was taught, we were able to coach the winner of the International Auctioneers competition.
Yeah, Jason.
And ever since then, people, each year it picks up. People have been signing up for the class. And as it turns out, for the past 2 years, not that I'm bragging, but for the past 2 years, we've the people who won the men's and the women's competition took the class, and not only that, but we have been coaching them. So next year we're going to be doing it in this year was the first year that I actually got to co-teach with Tim. I under the radar coach on the side, but this year I was actually in front of the class, which was a different
that was in
role.
Jacksonville. And then next year the National Auctioneers Association conference will be here in New Orleans. So the association is already here. I mean, our conference just ended July 18th, and here we are a month later. They're already starting next year's conference. So the staff of the NAA will be here this week, and what they're doing is they're scouting out. We're staying at the hotel where the conference will take place, and they have their board meetings, the new leadership. They go through their orientation and go through their board packets and what they need to do to be effective board members. And the staff of the NAA, they are here looking at all the ballrooms, looking at dealing with the catering, dealing with getting things together for the exhibit side of the show. And so it's really great because it's this cycle that you're here. And I actually, during our class yesterday, someone in the class had suggested to Emily and to Barrett to take a photograph of the ballroom for contestants to participate in the International Auctioneers competition next year. And they should use that on social media and say, next year's competition will be here. Will you be here? And I thought that was a really good idea.
Well, they're also scoping out like all of the food and everything. But the one thing that you don't have to worry about in New Orleans,
oh my goodness,
good food.
No.
You just set me in front of a table full of beignets, and I am good to go.
Well, actually had oysters last night, and we are actually walking distance to Bourbon Street and St. Charles, and so we walked around a little bit. And so it was good. So I'm on my way home. But we do have some things that are taking place in the marketplace. There was just an auction of antique and vintage telephones, which I thought was just really interesting. It took place in Rhode Island, and they actually sold an original model of Alexander Graham Bell's and Thomas Watson's very first telephone from 1881, and that sold for $40,000 at auction. And they had in this auction a whole variety. They also had the telephone from, it was one of the presidents. It was President Eisenhower. It was from his Newport, Rhode Island summer White House residence. And it's, the typical green dial-up phone, but that sold for
but there were no numbers on it. That was so weird. There's no dial on it. It's just a green phone, and where the dial is just up. Yeah,
but it probably got just patched in from the White House. And
when you're the president, you can just pick up the phone and expect anybody to answer.
There's an operator there.
You pick that phone up and you double click the where it was sitting, and
the receiver
gets you to the operator, and you say, "Yeah, I want to speak to Nikita Khrushchev or whoever."
Right.
Am I? What did Lily Tomlin say? Am I speaking to the party to whom I'm engaged?
That's right.
Right. But it was very cool. Just a lot of these. There was also one of those 1893 Clark candlestick phone. Remember those candlestick phones?
Oh yeah.
That was really cool, and that sold for about $3,000. And then they had these different things. Very cool.
Hanging on the wall of my house, I have all these modern phones, but hanging on the wall as you come in is a 60-year-old, and everybody knows what these look like, wall phone. That were made of the heavy-duty plastic and metal, and they have the metal bells in them, right? People always laugh when they come in. They say to me, "Oh, why don't you take that? That phone doesn't work." I said, "It doesn't work? Pick it up." And they'll pick it up, and it works. And so I said, I'll tell you what. I said, I'll call you on my cell phone. Listen to the quality in the earpiece. And they're amazed at the quality of the sound of that phone. Now I say, let's go outside to the far end of the property. And I do. We go out probably about 30 yards away, and I set the bell ringer on high, and you can hear that bell ringer. and the phone
clear as a bell.
It just works and works and works.
Yeah.
And I've been through.
They were loud, weren't they? They were certainly loud.
I've been through 2 sets of other phones since I've been there in 10 years.
More.
Yeah.
And what's
easily. That was quality made.
Good morning, Jill.
Oh, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Jill.
Good.
I loved it. Good to hear about listening skills. I really think that as we get further.
Yes.
No, seriously.
I was stressing that.
And
it is, especially
sort of
for leadership.
Perfectly into old phones, because I tell you what is is certainly an unintended consequence of all the speed and the screenage is that the general ability to comprehend. I mean, if you can listen, getting the listening to the comprehending is, it's a step.
That's a feat.
It's a feat. It is a super. You need special powers. And
well, you said a mouthful right there, Jill. You said that you the crux of the matter is just in that statement you made. The being able to see rather than listen. When we didn't have the ability to see who we were talking to or what we were talking about, you actually were forced to listen to the other person at the other end of the telephone. So much more communication, the skills of communication were in play with the old phones because you had to listen instead of just showing somebody a picture while you're talking to them.
Yeah, and unfortunately, while it is wonderful to be able to show that picture and point to it, it's like, hey, do you see this crack here? It's like this would be a source. If you are if you have come up and you had to listen, then you know to use it like that. But if you haven't, you're missing a critical piece of infrastructure.
Yeah.
That is very hard to explain, and as far as I can tell, harder to reverse engine. To
Right, because you make assumptions and then you base your responses on those assumptions, and it can be totally wrong.
right.
Well, I have a very quick story to tell about that. About the before we had the ability to use see what we were talking about from one person to another. Somebody called us one time, as is wont to happen when somebody wants to find out what something is worth. And so Tim was talking to this person on the phone, and they were describing it. This teddy bear is this, and it has this, and it has this, and it was just going on and on. And so Tim finally interrupted and said, "Could you just hold that closer to the phone?"
So I can just really get a better vibe, a better feeling.
All right. With that being said, you have to listen to what I have to say.
All right.
It's time for the hook.
Ooh,
oh no!
Dun, dun,
Wow,
dun.
we're running
Well,
on
we
time
didn't
today.
get to talk about Mickey Mantle, the world record, but that's
Tell them what
okay.
it
We'll
sold
save that
for,
for next
8
week.
million.
Good. That's a teaser.
The Mick won't miss
Right.
it. The Mick will wait a week. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll put him on ice.
Yeah.
Taking the Mickey. All right.
More ice. Okay, guys. We'll speak to you next week.
Have a good week. Take care.
Tim, Luke, and Greg Schramm, the appraisal guys, the frickin' frack of Nick and Knack. With Appraise This, I'm Marshall Miles.
Phil Goodman.
And you can hear Appraise This, of course, right here on the radio and then online at our on-demand site, robinhoodradio.com. Click on On Demand. Click on Appraise This.